In 1948, a young couple sat at a kitchen table in Queens and did the math that would decide the next 80 years of American history. Their city apartment, small, dark, shared walls, cost about $65 a month in rent. A brand new house in the suburbs, 4 rooms, a yard, new appliances, radiant heated floors, cost $56 a month to own, with $100 down. For a veteran, nothing down. Read that again. Owning a new house cost less than renting an old apartment. They weren't choosing between city and suburb. They were choosing between paying more for less, or less for more. 10 million families did that same math, got the same answer, and moved. And ever since, we've called it a preference. Americans prefer suburbs. It's treated as a law of nature, the free market spoke. And the market said, cul-de-sac. Today, that claim is on trial. Because that kitchen table price was not set by a market. It was engineered, one option discounted, insured, paved and mass-produced. The other denied credit, cut apart, and eventually made illegal to build again. By the end of this video, you'll know who did it and how. Then you deliver the verdict. First, the stakes why this trial matters right now. That one sentence, Americans prefer suburbs, still sits beneath nearly every housing decision in this country. It's why apartments are illegal to build on most American residential land. It's why a corner shop next to a house is treated as a planning violation. It's why walkable neighborhoods get discussed as a niche taste like a hobby instead of the way human beings arrange towns for 5,000 years. An entire continent has been organized around the assumption that this was a free choice. If the choice was manufactured, the American landscape is resting on a forged confession. So let's examine the evidence. Exhibit A, the loan. Before 1934, buying a house in America meant putting down roughly half the price in cash and paying off the rest within about 5 years. Home ownership was for the rich. Then came the Federal Housing Administration, and after the war, the GI Bill and the deal transformed. 30-year mortgages insured by the government with little or nothing down. Suddenly, a factory worker could own. But here's what the simplified story skips. The miracle loan did not work everywhere. The FHA insured what it considered safe investments, and it had defined safe in writing. New construction, detached single-family houses, big lots, low density, homes separated from shops and apartments. The mortgage system didn't just help Americans buy houses, it decided which houses would exist. The greatest wealth-building machine in American history came with a preferred delivery address, and it wasn't downtown. Exhibit B, the manual. The FHA's underwriting manual is one of the most consequential documents Americans have never read. It scored entire neighborhoods for mortgage risk, and its rules shaped what banks would touch. It recommended curving streets and cul-de-sacs over city grids. It demanded strict separation of homes from commerce, no apartment above the bakery, no shop at the end of the block. The pattern every American suburb still follows was not discovered by consumer demand. It was written into the financing standards, and the manual shaped who could live there, too. For years, the agency wouldn't approve mortgages for households headed by women. And its racial rules were explicit in writing. It warned that incompatible racial groups should not be permitted to live in the same communities. Federal insurance was withheld from black neighborhoods, and even from white neighborhoods judged too close to them. Whole sections of every American city were outlined on maps and cut off from the money supply. The color used to mark them was red. It's where the word comes from, redlining. Now go back to the kitchen table. The suburban option was being flooded with subsidized credit. The urban option was being drained of it block by block, on purpose. One was put on sale, the other was put on a blacklist. Exhibit C, the product. Enter William Levitt, who did for the house what Ford did for the car. Potato fields on Long Island, 1947, a house built in 26 steps by specialized crews, some stages taking as little as 16 minutes. 30 houses a day, 17,000 houses in 4 years, 750 square feet, appliances included, $7,990. For families coming out of a depression, a war, and years of doubling up in crowded flats, it was a genuine marvel, and every one of those mortgages leaned on the government guarantee. Levitt himself put it plainly. His company was the machine, Washington was the fuel. But stamped into the deed of every original Levittown home was a clause: the house could not be sold to or occupied by anyone who wasn't white. Among Levittown's 82,000 residents, as late as 1960, not one black family. Between 1948 and 1958, 13 million new homes went up in America. 85% were in the suburbs. That's not a trend. That's a landslide with a sponsor. Exhibit D, the highway. The loan pulled families toward the suburbs. The highway pushed them. Washington poured billions into roads connecting the new subdivisions to downtown jobs, a cost that never appeared in the kitchen table math, because it was spread across every taxpayer's bill. And those highways didn't cross empty land. They went through the city's own neighborhoods, very often the same black and working-class blocks the red maps had already starved, seizing homes. Splitting street grids, scattering communities. Hold both halves of that in your head at once. The suburban family got a road into the city. The urban family got the road through its living room. Now the defense gets its turn, because a fair trial requires one. Didn't people genuinely want this? Yes, truly, the yard was real. The space was real. The quiet bedroom and the patch of grass where your kids could play after everything that generation had survived, that was a real dream. And nobody should sneer at the families who seized it. The suburb was not a scam product. People loved it. Many still do. But here is the distinction the entire case turns on. Loving the option you were paid to choose is not the same as rejecting the alternative. Because the alternative was never allowed to compete. Its mortgages were blacklisted, its neighborhoods were bulldozed, its streetcars were torn out. And then came the quietest move of all the new zoning codes, made the walkable. Mixed neighborhood illegal to build again, almost anywhere in America. Houses here, shops way over there, apartments banned from both. The traditional American town didn't lose a fair fight. It was taken off the menu. You cannot claim customers rejected a product that was removed from the shelf. Which brings us to the climax of this trial, the evidence that collapses the myth on its own terms. If Americans simply prefer suburbs, then the walkable neighborhoods that survive should be cheap. Nobody wants them, right? Look at the prices. The brownstone blocks, the streetcar suburbs, the little pre-war downtowns that escaped the bulldozer are today some of the most expensive real estate in the country. Ordinary working-class neighborhoods transformed by scarcity into luxury goods. And in survey after survey, when Americans are asked what they actually want, a majority describe a walkable neighborhood they just can't find one, or can't afford one. Demand that outruns supply this violently is not rejection. It's starvation. The preference was never tested. One option got the loan, the manual, the highway, and the 16-minute house. The other got the red line, the demolition order, and the zoning ban. Then we looked at where everyone ended up and called it the will of the people. So here's your verdict to deliver, and be honest with yourself. It is not suburbs bad, cities good. Millions of people live in suburbs and love them, legitimately. The verdict is narrower. And more damning, the claim that America's landscape reflects a free and equal choice guilty. The confession wasn't written by 10 million families at their kitchen tables. It was drafted by loan officers and planning manuals before most of those families ever entered the room. The next time someone tells you walkable neighborhoods just aren't what Americans want, ask them one question: when? Exactly were we offered one at a fair price? And one last piece of evidence for the appeal. The city option didn't merely lose its funding, it lost its legs. The transportation that made urban life work was physically torn out of the ground by companies you know, in a scheme that ended in criminal convictions. There's a video right here on what really killed the American streetcar. Same trial. Earlier crime.